Hello guys, welcome to NameTech channel. I hope this video finds you well. This is CSS crash course part 4. We have part 1, part 2, part 3 and this is part 4. So we are going to discuss on the CSS layout. We are going first of all to begin with the display, then max width, the position, the Z index, the overflow, the float, inline block, align and align properties. So straight away let's go to our text editor. I'm using the Visual Studio Code, and these are the codes that I've used to create those heading there, but I want to delete and so that we may begin together with you. So let me select all and delete. Also this is my CSS, so let me just delete them and save. So yeah, in the HTML also ensure that you've saved so that the page may be blank, so that we may begin together. Yeah, so now to your text editor, in this first line just type type the exclamation like that, exclamation mark, and then I click enter to create the structure of our HTML document. So this is the structure of our HTML document, and as I told you earlier that these first lines, this first line defines the version of the HTML you're using, and the second line defines the root of the document, like it's a HTML document. And then we also have the head. So the head, we have the the title. We also have these metadata here, like these two ones, they are used to to define how your page, how it should be respond, or how responsive it is in larger screens or smaller screens. And then we have the head, the body. So in the body now, this is the place where everything that you want to appear on your page should be. So remember, like if we type here the title, like CSS layout. Remember, we are discussing CSS layout. So if we type CSS layout, it will not appear on the page but at the tab section. So just click Ctrl+S to save, and then here refresh. So guys, you can see at the top here we have the CSS layout. So perhaps I want to add just this page and zoom in so that you may see well. Yeah, but you can't see well because I haven't typed anything here in the page. But you can see at the tab section here we have the CSS layout. So the title will appear at the top there. But if at the body you type the H1, remember the tag for heading, the largest heading with the HTML is H1. So if we click H1 and then click enter, H1, actually it should be H1. So just type H1 to create your title. Remember, it's good that your page should always have the title. So in the title, let me say we are discussing the CSS layouts. Let me say CSS crash course part 4. Then I click save, and then I here refresh. So guys, you can see now, you can see your some text on your page. We have the heading on your page, and also let's create a subheading here. We're using the H2. So you type just H2 and say we are discussing CSS layout, and then we are going to begin with the display. So you just write display, and then we will go to max width. Remember, I told you max width property, max width, and then we shall talk about the position property. Also, we shall talk about the Z index property, in this order, and also we have the overflow, just wrap overflow. This thing you know because we discussed while in HTML, and then perhaps we shall discuss the float property, and also we shall discuss the inline block, inline block, and then we shall discuss on the align property. And so let me add a comma before, and align properties. Yeah, then I click Ctrl+S to save, and then on the browser just click Ctrl+R to refresh. So guys, you can see, but this heading I doubt if it's H2. Let me, oh yeah, it's H2, yeah, H2, but perhaps let's try to style it. So go to your CSS. So first of all, you must link your CSS to your document. So create another line here, and then use the link element to to link your CSS here to your HTML document. And also remember to type the name just as it appears in the name of the CSS document. Like I've named it as my styles.css. So I just write my styles.css like that, so that and you save, so that when you code on the CSS, it affects the your HTML document. Like for example, the first selector is going to be the head, but before then let's add some comments here. Remember, the comments will not appear at on your browser, but they just help the developers to identify the position or the places where they coded such elements. So for with CSS comments, you write the / and then you just type the star. You create a star, and then you say perhaps headings, and then to close, you close with the star again, and then the / the star comes before the /. So now this is the comment. So now we want to style the heading. So H1, H2 first. H1 is the selector. Remember we talked about the selector things while we were introducing the CSS. So the selector here is H1, and then now just say text align to be at the center. So just write text align to be at the center, and also and save, and then I refresh, Ctrl+R to refresh. So then I go to your the H2. So H2, just type H2 is the selector, and then open and close the curly braces, and then type text align also to be at the center, and then click Ctrl+S to save, and then Ctrl+R to refresh. So guys, you can see we have the H2, but this H2 I'm not pleased with it. Perhaps let me say H3. Let me make it H3 so that it might not be that big. So let me say H3, so that our heading should not be very big like that. Also, when you change with the HTML, also ensure that you change with the CSS. Ensure that with the CSS you also change the selector to be H3. Then I click Ctrl+S to save, and then here just refresh here, so that it may be at least small. But let me zoom out. So this is now the title, but we are going to focus on the CSS layout. This was just by the way. So with the CSS layout, we are going to begin with the display. So the display property specify how an element displays. So like we have the major ones are the inline and the block. So we are going to begin first of all with the, so let me create some comments here, but with the HTML I forgot to add some comments, so it's good always to have your comments. So with the CSS you just write the angle bracket for less than, and then you put the exclamation mark, and then you type 2 hyphens, and then inside here now you write your comments like headings. Yeah, so when you are done, just I'm going to the next one, which is the display property. So let me just write again the comment, and then say the display property, the display property. Then yeah, so when you're done with the display property, ensure that you always save. So now the display property, as I told you earlier, specify how an element is displayed. Like it can change the the layout, or it can change how we have before then. Let me tell you that we have only two, like the major ones are two: the inline and the block level elements. So like the examples of the block level is like the div, the h1. We have the paragraph, which is tagged, which is specified with p, the form, the header, the footer, the section. So these are the major block level element. And also inline, we have the span, we have the the link element, like which is specified with the a tag, and also we have the image, which is specified with the img. So the difference with the block level and the inline is that the block level element always starts on a new line and takes up the full width available, and the inline also you can start on it does not start on a new line, but it takes up the as much width as necessary. It takes the maximum width as it can. So the difference is that when you write a block level, block level element, it will always begin in a new line, but the inline it can like for image, it does not begin on a new line. So basically we have the two major type of display. We have the block level elements and the inline elements. So the difference with the block level elements and the inline elements is that the block level elements always starts on a new line and takes up the full width available. And the examples are like the div. We have the h1, the heading from h1 to h6. They are all of them are the block level. And also we have the p, the paragraph tag, which is tagged with the p. We have the form, we have the header, footer, section. These are the major the block level elements. And the inline, the difference with to differentiate it from the block is that the inline elements does not start on a new line and only takes up as much width as necessary. So the examples is like the span, the link tag, and also the img, and so forth. So the difference that these they do not begin on a new line, like the image, it can goes anywhere. It doesn't necessarily to begin on a new line. So we are going to begin to I'm going to show you an example, but also remember you have the display none, but I'm not going to talk about it now because the display none is commonly used with the JavaScript to hide and show elements without deleting and recreating them. So I will not talk much about it. So I'm going to begin with the perhaps let me say perhaps we are going to talk about the how to override the display value, like how you can change the block to appear as the same as the inline, and also the inline to appear as the block. So we are going to begin with the the how to change a block, how to change an inline to appear as the block, or perhaps let's say to change a block to appear as an inline. So we are going to code perhaps which we know that the list. Let me take an example of the list. The list, the list is a block level element. It always begin on a new line, but we want to change it appear as an inline so that it does not begin on a new line. So do you recall the tag for the list? We have the ordered list and an unordered list. So let me use an example of an ordered list, ul, and then let me just create some lines here and then say li. So let me say li. Before then, let me perhaps try to create some line here, some space here, and then write li for list, and then let me say something. Let me say names like Nehemiah. I'm Nehemiah, by the way, and then let me create another line here and say li, and say John, any name, and then another line. Let me say something like Mercy, li first of all, and say Mercy for gender balance, and also another female here like li, and say Joy, and then I click Control plus S. So before I talk about the how to change or how to override, let me first of all show you how it appears on the browser. It should appear on a new line, each item, each list. So Control plus R to refresh. So guys, you can see it appears on a new line because it's a block level. But before then, I want to create some space here. You don't have to do this, but you can do because I've taught you the CSS. So let me create a div here so that we may have the space on the browser, so that I can at least try to scroll and say in this first tag of the div, let me say styles. I'm using the inline CSS, and say perhaps margin top, and let me give it something like a 500 pixel, and then click Control plus S to save. You don't have to do this, but I'm doing so that at least to create some space here so that I can scroll, or that you can see these things very, very well. So now this is the block level element, but I want to make it an inline to override. So I'm going to make it an inline. So you go to your CSS. So this is our CSS, and then now you go to let's create a line here and say our comments are actually comments, and say the display. We're discussing the display, and we are talking about the how to change a block level element to an inline. So the selector is li, and then now we want to make it the display to be the inline. So display to be inline. So you just write inline, and then you click enter. So first of all, let me create some paragraph here, and say let me say p for paragraph, and say let me say the display a list, let me say display a list horizontally. horizontally. Then I click Control S to save, and then on the browser I click Control plus R to refresh. So guys, you can see we have the lists are horizontally. The lists are horizontal, like it's not that it's not as how it was. It appears horizontally here. Let me remove these things so that you may see properly. There's no need for me to put this paragraph here. So guys, controller, so you can see our list now. It doesn't look like a list. We have changed the list to be the inline by changing the by changing the the property that there, like we have changed the block to be an inline. So perhaps if we remove this one, if we remove the style, the this plane to be inline, it will appear just as how it was the list format. But if we change the change the the display, sorry, if we say the selector is li, and then open and close the curly braces, and then type display to be inline, you see wonders here in on your page. Yeah, so that you can see you have like Nehemiah, John, Mercy, and Joy on the same line, horizontal line. It's not doesn't appear on a new line. So basically this is how you can change a block level element to be an inline. So we want to talk about the what to change an inline to change an inline to block level. So like we are going to use an example of span. Remember I told you the type of the inline will have the a tag, we have the span, you have the img, the image tag. So I'm going to take an example of spans in here, and then in the span let me say I'm going to use the span, and then before then let me go to my HTML, and perhaps where should I go? Let me create comments. Not really, not a must. So let me make this appear at the bottom there. So now I want to talk about the display none, the display block. We want to convert the inline to a block level element. So let me create a paragraph. Is there a need? So like let me use the span, and let me say the span, and let me say create a paragraph here. So let me say let me create some content here. My name is Nehemiah, and then let me just copy and just paste several span tag. So by default on the browser, when you save this document, it will appear just on the same on the same line. It will just appear on the same line. So when I click Control plus R to refresh, so on your browser you can see it just appear on the same line. My name is Nehemiah, my name is Nehemiah, my name is Nehemiah. But if on your CSS you change the display, so like you say the selector is span, right? Span is an inline, but if we change the display, so the display to be block, yeah, block. So it will split lines. So like just click Control plus S to save, and on the browser Control plus R to refresh. So guys, you can see we have changed that span inline element to be a block level element. It is beginning on a new line. So basically this is how easily you can change your the display your elements. So you can do anything with these things before, but for now let's go to another property. We are going to talk about the max width. So the max width. So I'm pretty sure you have understood the how to change the display from block to inline, or from inline to block. So let's go to our HTML document, and we want to talk about another thing. So let me create a comment here. It's not a must you add some comments, but it's always prudent to add so that you may specify the location where you coded some items. Like, let me say we are discussing max width, right? Max width, it was our second item, max width. And then yeah, you can save or run. Before then, we want to talk about the max width. So so like when I talked in the when I've talked to you about the BlockLevel elements, like they always take up the full width available, or it stretches out to the left or right as far as it can, but you can as well specify using the max width. So like I'm going to create some two lines, or some I'm going to create let me use a border. I'm going to create a border, and I'm going to use it so that to distinguish, or to make a difference with it. So like let me say let me create let me create perhaps a div, and say what, and say perhaps let me say a div, and say this is, first of all, let's begin with the with the width, the one without the max width. So let me say this is the border. This is the border without max width, without the max width, right? So now perhaps let me create a class here, and say a class to be, let's say 1. Let me name it as 1, and then I click Control plus save plus S, sorry, to separate. But in this CSS also, let's create a comment here and say we are discussing max width, max width, yeah, and then close. So let's remember to close the comments. So now remember we are talking about the max width, and first of all I'm creating a border, or the border, so that to distinguish between the max width and the normal width. So perhaps let me say in this div1 div.1 the class is 1, sorry, 1 to be our selector, and let me say perhaps let me create a width, a normal width of perhaps let me say 500. Let me use an example of 500 pixel, and then let me say perhaps the margin, let margin be auto. Control Z first of all. So ensure you close with a semicolon when you've finished, and then let me say perhaps margin, let me give it auto, auto, and then let's create a border now. Border, let me say border, and the border, let me give it something like a medium is 3 pixel, and then let me say solid. I always like solid, and perhaps the color, let me give it something like red, and then I click Control plus S to save, and then on the browser just click Control plus R to refresh. So this is my my border, as you can see it, but let me create or zoom out so that you can see it properly. So this is my border, and it doesn't have the max width. So the difference with this one, when I will adjust, or when I resize this window, it will affect the content here. Perhaps you will not see the border very well, or you will not see items very well. So let me try to resize this window so that you may see the difference. So you see, when I resize, you can see our border is now affected. Yeah, so you can see you can't see the border very well. So like in this other end, it is cut off here. So you can't see the border very well. But if we set the maximum width, you'll see everything very well. Yeah, you'll see everything very well. So let me use another change. Let me just copy the same line, but now the difference is that I'm going to use the max width. Just click Control plus C to copy, and then I create a new line. Sorry. Create a new line and paste there, but now we change the class to be 2. It's good to change the classes so that when you style on CSS, you can specify very well. So now this is the border with max width. Let me say with max width, and then I click Control plus S to save. Always remember to save. Now again, I'm going to copy this this codes, and then I'll paste on a new line and say change the class to be 2. But now we are changing the max width to be 500. So yeah, the max width is now 500 pixel. The other things or other properties are just the same. The margin is auto, the border is solid, just as how this one it is, but the difference is that we have changed the width in the max width. So just click Control plus S to save, and then on the browser just refresh. Before then, let me add some break tags so that you can see very well. Let me go to my HTML and create some break tags here. BR. Remember, BR is just used to break lines or to create space between items. So BR. I've created 2 BR, and then here just refresh. So let me. So you can see the boxes are just the same. The items, they are just the same. They are the length and everything is just the same. The body is just the same. Before then, let me zoom out first of all, and then perhaps make this window to be. So guys, you can see we have the same display. You have the same content there. But now we want to resize the window so that we may see the difference. So now to resize, just click at the end of this edge of this window, and then try to resize so that you may see the difference. So you can see with the one without the max width, it's affected. The edge of the border, you can see it is affected, but this other one is not affected. Yeah. So guys, I'm pretty sure you have seen the difference. So it's always good to use the max width property when designing a website or doing your stuff. So I don't want to talk much about the max width. I think I've talked about it very well. So the next thing that we want to talk about is the position property. So the position property specifies the type of positioning method used for an element. Like we have the static, we have the relative, fixed, absolute, and perhaps sticky. So the position property, first of all you must use in the position property before you type your value, like a static, relative, fixed, absolute, and so forth. So like elements are then positioned using the top, bottom, left, right properties. However, these properties will not be affected unless you use the position properties as I told you earlier. So like let's begin with the static. Let's go to our HTML document. Where is our here it is, here, this is our HTML document. And before then, let's create let me just add some comments here and say add an exclamation mark and then 2 dashes or 2 hyphens and say position. We are discussing the position property and the position property, and we are going to begin with the static. So the static, we are going to begin with the static, the position static. So the HTML elements are position static by default. So like these 2 lines here, they are static. These ones here, they are static. By default they are static. So I'm not gonna talk about it very much more, but perhaps before then let me just try to to type again, so that it may be a distinction between the above. So like let me create some content here. Let me use a div again and say div. But now this the class will be 3. Class will be 3 because we have other divs up there. And say, so in this div, let me say perhaps let me say this div has position static, right? Position static. Then always ensure you save before doing anything. But let's go to our CSS and style it. So let me create we are discussing what the position property. So the selector should be some comments will be position. I always like using the comments, and say div3, the selector is div3, div.3, or you can just say .3, but it's always good to include the div because you can have other items. And say this div, let's give it or perhaps let me say div static. The class should be static, so that it may be easy to distinguish. Haven't saved it yet, right? Ensure that this side is says saved, or it doesn't display these are pop-up here. So ensure first of all you click Ctrl+S to save. Ensure you save. Perhaps there might be a difference. The problem here, I don't know why it's not saving. but also always ensure that you click to Control plus S, and then to your CSS now, and div 3, say open and close the curly braces, and say let's add some properties here. Let's create let's create some properties. So the properties property oh sorry, should be just property, not property, position, not property, position, yeah, position, and say static. We are beginning with the static. So static, it will just be the same as the defaults of HTML. So let me create a border here, and say so the selector is what selector is just the same we are using the div 3, but now we want to create a border here. So the properties border, and say perhaps let's this time use let it remain be 3 pixel, and then change the the style to be solid, say just solid, and perhaps a color, let's give it something like a blue. Let's use a different color, blue. Yeah, blue. So I'm pretty sure that it's okay. So just click Control plus S to save, and ensure that these are the, so yeah, I can see it's not showing that display at for unsaved what document or unsaved tags. So in the browser, just click Control plus R. So ensure that everything is clear. So now you can see that because we didn't type the class very well, you see it doesn't display that border. So ensure that the class is specified very well, because we use static, right? Static, and then click Control plus S. Remember the class is static, right? Yeah. So ensure that the class on the CSS is also static. Then I click Control plus S, and then refresh, Control plus R to refresh. But let me create some break tag on the HTML, br to create some space, and then save, and then refresh. So guys, you can see we have the this is just a static what there, it's just a static a static what position is static for this border here. So just a normal, but it picks the max width. Yeah, so the position is just static like how it is. So it just picked the max width, it just picked the max width. Yeah. So this is how position should be static. You see, it picks the length from from this other end, from the left to the right. So it displays the content very well. It's not restricted with anything. So like when you resize, it doesn't have some space, like this one for which it has the max width, like it has the max some margins, or it has some margins which are equally divided at the end here. But this one, it picks like the entire length. Yeah. So these are static what this is a static position property value. So we are discussing the position, and we have begun with the static. So we want to go to another one, like the relative. So with the relative, let me just copy these lines here so that I may not type again. Yeah, click Control plus C, and then in this other new line just paste. but now the class should be relative. Yeah, so the position relative, declaration is a position relative to its normal position. So like setting the top, right, bottom, and the left properties of a relative positioned element will cause it to be adjusted away from its normal position. Other contents will not be adjusted to fit into the gap left by the element. So straight away, let's try to code so that you may see the difference. So like just the same as the static, but we are going to change the the position, or the position. So it just like the static, but this one you can specify the the left hand side, the right, the top, the bottom, and so forth. So to my CSS, before then ensure you've saved. Control+S to save, and then to your CSS create another line here and say div is what is it? Relative. Relative, I guess. Relative, we are discussing relative, and then open and close the curly braces and say so in this first line, let's write the position property and give it relative. It's here, and then so but we are going to change the the position or the place. So let's say I give it the left, the position left, and perhaps let's say give it something like 40 pixel or 50 or any value you can, and then let's give it a border as always. So the border, let me copy this one. Just click Ctrl+C to copy, and then Ctrl+V to paste. So and then I click Ctrl+S to save. Before then, ensure you have a break tag so that you may create some space there. So just write the br tag, and then save, and then on the browser just refresh. So guys, you can see it has created some space here. It has created some space at the left hand side. So like it has created 40 pixels. So this is now how you can make a relative position, or you can make a relative position, a position to be relative. So I'm not going. You can try to make it on the right hand side, the left hand side, and so forth. But for now, let's go to another one for fixed. So the one with the fixed position is the position fixed is a position relative to the viewport, which means it always stays in the same place even if the page is scrolled. Like the top, bottom, you can place it at the top, the right, the bottom, the left, any position you can, but it will be it will be fixed. So let's create another line here. Let me just copy and then paste here, but now the class should be fixed, and then save. Ensure you save your document, and then go to your CSS. But now I'm going to copy this one. I'm lazy in typing, so let me just copy and paste here. But now we are going to change it to be the selector to be what? Fixed. But now I'm going to say, perhaps let me say, let me make it where and the top for what, let me say bottom, and let's this time use the bottom, but now let me give it a 0 pixel, and then at the right hand side let me make it perhaps the right, right, let me give it right. Last time we used left, so right, let me give it again a 0, and then our border remains just the same as how it is. Did I add some break tag there, the CSS? So ensure you have a break tag, so br, and then Control plus S, and then here just refresh. So I think I have a problem here with the position. So the position should be fixed. Ensure you always code things right in a very right way. So the position should be fixed. Ensure that your items are very well, your properties are very well written, and then refresh. So just Control plus R to refresh, to refresh. So guys, you can see I've made I positioned this document at the left hand side, not really at the right hand side and at the bottom, but it is fixed. So when I scroll these other items, it will just overlap this, but it just remain fixed. You can see just fixed. So even if you do what, it does remain fixed in that position. So I guess this is how you can make your element fixed, or it's fixed. So you can do anything, you can practice, you can try to make it at the left hand side. Perhaps let me try to make it at the left, or let me say center. Let me say center, right? Center. Is center written like that? Or let me say, I'm not sure the Spanish, so let me use left, and then I click Control plus S to save, and then here refresh. So guys, you can see it's still a static, but position on the left hand side. So other items or other elements will just overlap it, but it remains static. So this is now how you can easily style or make your border or elements static. And so guys, with the position we also have the absolute, and also we have the we have the sticky ones, but for the sake of time I'm not going to touch on it, but remember with time we shall talk about it. But in this video, allow me to just to focus on those that I've taught you. So we are going to the next item, the next property, which is the z-index property. So with the z-index property, actually these are specified. These are properties specify the the star code of an element. Like this one can overlap with this property. You can overlap other elements. So when elements are positioned, they can overlap others with the the z-index property. So the z-index property specify the star code of an element. Like you can decide you have an image at the background, and then at the top you have some other content like the text and other HTML elements. So let's straight away to begin to code so that you may understand it very well. So first of all, I'm going to use an image. I have my image for logo at the folder, at the same folder where this HTML document of mine is. So I'm going to use an image, so at the background, and then have my let's say something like the heading and the top. So before then, let me just delete these other items. Let me just delete them. Not really up to this to this so that I may just have this z index, and also save. And then on the CSS, just let me just delete these items so that it may not confuse us anymore. Yeah, so that I also even the heading, just remove everything, and then save, refresh, so that it may be just empty as that. So we are going to discuss on the with the z index property. As I've told you that earlier, that with this property you can overlap elements, like an image. For instance, an image, you can overlap it with a text, and so forth. So to begin with, let me have a heading first of all, h1. So h1 is a heading. H1 is our main heading, and then in the heading, let me say for example, let me say CSS layout. We are discussing CSS layouts. So now in the second one, let me insert some image here, my image. So do you recall the tag for image is img? So we have the source, and then now we have the alternative text. So with the source, you can specify the source of the image. So like mine is in the photos, and then a /, and then I'm choosing my logo, and then alternative text. Let me say Nehemiah's logo. So Nehemiah's logo. But it's not necessarily to have these like, let me just delete. These appear on the browsers. For instance, if you have deleted your photo, so it will display that name, but I'm not going to focus on it by now. But perhaps let me add other properties, other attributes here, like to make the width of the image. Let me say give it something like 100, and then the height, let me give it something like height. These are the attributes. So you give it something like let's say 140. Then I click Ctrl+S to save, and then perhaps in this other line, let me say add another paragraph here, and say let me say I'm using the z index of 1. Let me say this image, I'm going to use a z index of 1. So this image has z index of let me give it something like let's say -1. Let me say -1. So -1, it will be like the background. It will be placed, perhaps let me say it will be placed behind. It will be placed behind the text. And that the text, remember, you have the heading, the text, yeah, text. Yeah. So now let's go to our CSS. Save first of all, and then go to your CSS, and then now in this CSS we want to make to make this image to go behind, this logo of mine to go behind. So I'm going to use the img as a selector, img img as a selector, and then I open and close the curly braces and say let me give it an index of first of all the position should be something like absolute. We didn't discuss absolute, so let me use an example of absolute here. And then the left, let me give it something like a 0 pixel. You can write pixel, but there's no necessarily you write the units, because 0, even if you use the em, the centimeter, the kilometer, the watt, 0 remains 0. So, and then the top, give it again 0 pixel. Let me just say 0 pixel, and then z index, let me give it -1. Z index, let me give it -1, yeah. And then ensure you click Ctrl plus S, and then on the browser just click Ctrl plus R to refresh. So guys, you can see I have my text, but let me make the text have other colors so that you may see very well. It's like to my CSS H1, so let me say H1. Let me give it something like the color to be what? So open and close the curly braces, and the color that will be visible very well. Let me say color to be something like yeah, this one. And then I click Ctrl plus S, and then also the paragraph, the selected paragraph, and then the color. I want a lighter color to be, let me give it again something like again, let me say yellow, but this yeah. Then I click Ctrl plus S to save, and then on the browser click Ctrl plus R. But let me perhaps add some backgrounds in the page, so I'm going to use the body, so that it may not be that white. And then say the color to be like you say background color. That's the error which I had inserted. I had placed. So just refresh. So guys, you can see how the text. Let me make it another color. So the text for paragraph here, let me say white. Let me use a value here, so hash, I want to make it white, so F, and then I click Ctrl plus S to save, and then on the browser just refresh. But in real sense, I'm just trying to make you understand the Z index. So the Z index for image, we have given it the value to be -1, so it will appear there behind the other items. So like we have the the text are on top of others, or on top of my image. So perhaps let me try to resize or to make the text appear very big. So where is my image? My img. So let me say the width to be, let's say 1920, very big, 1920. The height to be 1080. Then I click Ctrl plus S to save, and then I here refresh. So guys, you can see I have my my logo, but it's very big, so I don't know which measurement is gonna work well. But let me try to change and make it very a little realistic, be a little. Let me say the width to be 320, by 240, or any value 240, the height to be 240. Then I click Ctrl plus S to save, and then just refresh. So you can see it's we have it is it is we are under the same the same we are just highlighting, or we are just discussing on the same effect of the Z index. So like we have decided to make our image behind, but now our other elements like the text are on top of the, or are in front of the image. So this is now how the Z index is very important, very necessary on web development, especially when you have your banner image on your page, and you want to add some text there. So it's very good to have your Z index. So let's go to another item here. Like you can do practice with the Z index thing, but for me I'm going to another thing. Like, so guys, I'm pretty sure that you are now good with the the Z index. So basically this it focuses on the matter of making something, to an element to be behind or on top of other items. So the next thing that we are going to handle, or we are going to discuss, is the overflow. The overflow was our next item to discuss. So let me add a comment here and say what, and say overflow property, overflow property. And then now basically the overflow property specify whether to clip the content, or to add a scroll bar when the content of an element is very big to fit in the specified area. So with the overflow property has the following values. Like we have the visible. The visible is always the default one. Like the overflow is not clipped. The content renders the outside of the elements box. And also we have the hidden one. Like the overflow is clipped, and the rest of the content will be invisible. We have the we'll have that the overflow, but now the content will be hidden. It just display what is in that box. And then we have the scroll, the one for the value for scroll. The scroll overflow is clipped, and the scroll bar is added to see the rest of the content. And then you have the auto, which is similar to the scroll, but it adds scroll bar only when necessary. And so we are going to begin with the the visible one. So let's just type here we are beginning with the visible one. So with the visible, let's code here. Let's have some items here. Let's have div, and then click enter. And then now you can generate some text like lorem. I hate typing, so I'm just generating some text there. So this is my text here. The lorem ipsum stuffs. So always usually text editors have some text, some generated text there. It has some text. So when you just select lorem, it will generate some text there. And if you say something like lorem 10, it will create 10 words. So like lorem 10, it will create 10 words for lorem. So it has created 10 words for the lorem. So basically these text editors usually have some text inbuilt. So now that we have our text, so we want to style it to make an overflow for it. So ensure first of all you save, and then I'll go to your CSS, and then now before then let me create a div. let me create a div, for not a div, actually the break tag, break tag, sorry, br. So yeah, so now that you have our break tags and you have saved it, go to your CSS and then now type so the selector is div, yeah, and then open and close the curly braces. And so now the background color, let me give it something like background color, let me give it a lighter color, like let's say hash and then EE, to have a something like a color like that is a bit light. And then the width for our text should be something like width, give it something like let's say 200 pixel. And then another item is the height, the properties height is let's give it something like if we say 100 pixel, it will be very big. And then the border, always I want to create a box for it, so the border is let's use the same 1 pixel thin, or let's say thin, and say let's say dotted. This time we use another one like a dot, or let me say dashed, and then the color should be what, let me just use black, so that we have at least a difference. And then the overflow, now the property for overflow, so overflow give it something like a visible. So in real sense, in our text editor we shall have that box, but the content will be visible, the other contents will be visible, but we will also have the contents in the box, in that box. So let's refresh in our text editor and see what I'm talking about. So guys, you can see, before then let me just remove these other items here so that it may not confuse us. Just click Control, let me just delete this one, then I click Control plus S to save, and then on the browser with the HTML first of all. So let me just refresh. But let me just add some borders here so that you may see these thing well. So let me create to my CSS the background color, let me give it some another color, like let me say green, so that you may see very well. And then I click Control plus S, and then I just refresh. So guys, you can see we have our box, and then we have the overflow. So but now with the visible one, you can see other text here, you can see other text outside the box, but yeah, so this is now the overflow, but we now it is visible, we have other contents are visible. But if we use another one, like we use another one, like for let's use another one for the, remember I told you that we have the hidden one, we use another one like for hidden, let's say hidden, it will hide the other contents outside the box. So click hidden, and then on the browser just to refresh. So guys, you can see it hides other contents outside this box. So but we have also other items, we have other, you can as well add other items, like you can make it scroll, have a scroll effect. So with the scroll effect, you just include the scroll, property, scroll value. So go to your CSS, and then now write scroll. It will scroll other items. Just click Control plus C plus Control Control S to save, and then refresh. So guys, you can see it has created some scroll bar here, so like I can scroll my content until I see everything. So this is now the goodness with the scroll bar. Yeah. So, and then another item we have is the auto. The auto is the same as the scroll one, but this one is it creates the scroll bar where necessary, doesn't place it anywhere. So let me just use the auto, and then I click Control plus S to save, and then here refresh. So guys, you can see it is it has some, it is just the same as just the same as the scroll, but now this creates the scroll bar where necessary. Like for example, the other one, it creates some scroll bar this bottom side, but in recent this text editor does this content the height the margins doesn't need the scroll bar in the horizontal, because the content fits very well in this text box. So let me try to let me rewind it to the scroll so that you may see scroll, and then click Control plus S to save, and then refresh. So as you can see, we have the scroll bar here at the horizontal, but you can see our text doesn't need the scroll bar because the content fits the text boxes. But now when you add your auto, the auto thing, it will not add those scroll bar because it's not needed. Auto, Control plus S to save, and then here just refresh. So guys, you can see it doesn't bring that it doesn't bring the horizontal scroll bar. So this is how you can usually add an overflow. So I guess you are good with this. You can do practice with it. Rewind the video if you haven't understood, and then you catch everything. So guys, the next thing that we are going to talk about is the float and clear. So with the CSS float, property specify how an element should float. So like you can have an image on the right hand side or the left hand side, but the content surrounds it, or goes around it. So that's all about the floating. So with the float property, we have other floats values, like you can make an image a float left, right, or you can also have the none or the inherit. So right away, let's try to talk about the the float right. So let's go to our text editor, and then write to our HTML first of all, and then now here just create a comment here and say CSS float and clear property, and clear property. So so now go to your text go to your to another line, and then now in this other line, first of all, you want to create an image or your element that you want it to float. So I'm going to use an example of an image, my image, and say I'm going to use the same image which is my logo. So let me create a paragraph first of all. The paragraph, so tag for paragraph, is it P? Yeah, P. Then write your lorem things, lorem, and then again your lorem, so that we have several text lorem. So now that you have your text, go to your first tag and then create an image here. So use an img, use img for image, and then now the source of the image is a photo. The folder is photos. I had placed it on photos, and then the image itself is my log, and it's a png file. So yeah, with that, then you can remove this alternative text. We don't want to use it because this applies only if you have a website and you have deleted an image, or perhaps an image is misplaced, and then you might want to leave some alternative text so that the users, or the users of your page may see some text so that they may guess the kind of image that was there. But with me, I'm pretty sure for that I have my logo, so I don't need to add some text there. So this is my my logo, but I want to add some other attributes here. So I'm going to use an inline style, an inline CSS here. So style, and the first item is the width. So let me add a width, which is width. Yeah, with it. Is it with it? with, and then I give it something like let me say just something like 170 pixel, and then another property is the height. So just write height. Height, and say height, give it something like let's say, again, let's make it a square, like let's say 170 again. So, and then now let's give it another property for margin. Let's create a space, say margin at the at the left hand side. So the margin, we're discussing the margin. We want to create a margin in the left hand side. So margin, what margin, margin, is it margin? Yeah, it gets, I don't sure if it is the spelling for margin, but however, margin left, give it something like margin left, give it something like let's say let me say something like 15 pixel. And then when you are done, always remember to add to add those semicolon, to add the semicolon, and then the I'm not sure. So I guess there's an error here. First of all, let me remove these. These are they are only used to close, but now here we separate with the. Let me just write so that I may not confuse you. Let me just rewrite afresh so that I may not confuse you. So now here with the style, you begin with the, ensure you have the you have these open and close. So let's add some attributes here, some some properties here. So we are going to begin with the width, which is, let's give it a square. Let's make it a square, and 170 by 170. So the height is the width is 170 pixel, and then you separate with a semicolon, and then the the height. So the height, let's give it something like again 170. We want to make it a square, 170 pixel. And then another thing that we want to add here is the margin left. So margin, just type margin left to create some space there, and give it some any value like let's say 15 pixel. Yeah, 15 pixel. I'm pretty sure it's okay. And then click Control plus S to save. And then I'll go to your CSS. Go to your CSS and then type, say your paragraph. So go to your what, to your CSS, and say what, img. You have another image here, the img. It will affect also this other image. Yeah, but it's not a big deal. Let's just type img and say say what, just open and close the curly braces, and say float. We use the float property. Float what? Float what? We want to make it to float right. So I just click float right, and then I click Control plus S to save, and then on the browser just to refresh, Control R to refresh. So guys, you can see we have but now affecting this other image is now affecting because I haven't used but let me to make it fair. Let me use the class here, class, and say, let me say 1, so that it may not affect the other image. Control S, and then to my CSS, let me say image dot 1, and then I click Control plus S, and then here refresh on the browser, Control R to refresh, so that it may only affect this other image. So guys, you can see we have made an image here, and then some content. It's now floating, the image surrounds it. Yeah, so perhaps let me add some other text so that it may be long. It may be very long. Yeah, always let me add another lorem there. Lorem, again another lorem, so that you may see very well. And then I click Control plus S to save, and then I here refresh. Yeah, so this is now what I wanted to show you, so that you can see the image is now floating. It's floating. The content will not touch it, goes around it. So let's try to make it let's try to make it a float in the left hand side. So we are going to change some items here. So like we are going to change the the property there. We are going to change where float, so we are going to change here to be left. Yeah, but now here in the HTML, let's make it change here and say margin right. So we are going to say margin right. We are not going to say margin left again. So margin right, yeah. And then I click Control plus S to save, and then here on the browser just refresh the browser. So yeah, guys, you can see we have an image there floating on the left hand side. So this is now how the float goes apply on a browser. So other image goes around it, but the image now floats. So I'm pretty sure that now we are good with that part. So guys, the other item that we were to discuss, but I don't see the need for us to discuss, I think this is something that you can just relate, is that is the display the inline block value. So the inline block is just the same as the inline one, the display inline, but this has an extension of the block. Like you can have the inline block value, and also the the block inline. So like these ones, this one allows you to the difference is that this one allows you to set a width and the height of the element. So I think this is the best the major difference, but for now I want us to go to another item to finalize because of time, so that I may not be much exhausted with many things, or be loaded with a lot of things. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the inline elements, aligning elements, the align elements. So let's create another property here, and say create another line and say the add exclamation mark and some comments there, and say the align, but align again, I'm pretty sure you understand these things, but let me just do it because I've touched it several times. So first of all, let's create some border. I'm going to use a border. So the border, let's create some text first of all, and say let's create a border. Let's create a P paragraph, and say, before then let me add some break tag, br, and then a br, and then in the paragraph just say anything like how is coding. Let me say how is coding. So this is now going to be the text inside our border. So let me go to, but now this class, let me say align class, and say align, because we have other paragraphs, it will affect other paragraphs there. So just click Ctrl plus S to save, and then go to your CSS. Go to your CSS now, and then write the selector is a P, but the align. Was it align? Let me go to my HTML and confirm. Yeah, align, not really align, it's align, and then just click Control plus S. I guess this is the correct spelling for align, and then go to your CSS, and then align, and then open and close the curly braces, and say and say something like begin with the create some margin inside that box. So around the the text margin, let it be auto, and then and the next thing, create a width for it, width it, give it something like let's say 60%, 60%, and then now create also another border, create a border border, and say let's use the one for the default one, 1 pixel, let's say solid, color to be red, yeah, and then also add some padding there, padding, remember there's a space around the box, the padding for that, let's give it something like let's say 10 pixel, and then just click Ctrl plus S to save, Control plus S to to save. Control plus S to save. Yeah, and then just click Control plus R to refresh. So guys, you can see we have created some. The width it is 60%, so it has cut this part 60%. So it has occupied the 60% of the of the entire width, or the width of these the width of this box, or this border is 60%, the one that it has occupied. But you can as well align them. So with, if you say something like a 50%, it will be a half. 60%, so, or let's say 50%, it will split halfway. 60 with is 50%. Let me say 50%. It will cut it halfway. Then you click Control plus S to save, and then here refresh. Yeah. So guys, you can see it has made the box is 50% here. It is 50%. These are edge, and from this place to this other end, from right to left, it has it is halfway. But now let's align some text there by using a text align. So we are going to use the text align. So let's try some text align. So to style a text align, we use the text align, like let's say text align, and then say sender. Let me make it sender, and then just click Control plus S to save, and then refresh. So guys, you can see the content here is the sender. You can make it as well to the left, to the right, to the whichever place. Let's say right. Then I click Control plus S, and then refresh. So guys, you can see you can as well style. You can make the entire box to go to the place where you want, or you can make the content inside your text, your box, go place whichever place you can. Also, any HTML element, you can actually style it and align it in any place. Like for example, this entire box, let's try to make it go to the left hand side. So we are going to use another one. So with the width, let me change it to be something like a 10%. So it will cover the 10%, and then click Control plus S, and then here refresh. So guys, you can see the width is 10%. Yeah, but let me make it 100. You can as well make it 100. 100%. Not really 100. I'm tagging the wrong place. It should be here 100. It will cover the entire page. Then click Control plus S to save, and then refresh. Yeah, you can see it's now covering the entire space, and you can align the entire box in whichever place you want. So guys, this is now what I wanted us to discuss for today. You can as well review this video several times so that you ensure that you catch everything. So I'm pretty sure now that today you have known the CSS layout. We began with the display, the max width, the position, the Z index, the overflow, the float. We talked about. We didn't talk about the inline block, but I'm pretty sure you can do it, because the only difference that with the inline block allows you to set the height and the width, and also we have concluded with the inline property. So guys, this is what I wanted us to discuss. Please, if you have found this video interesting, please subscribe and also like the video to support me, so that I may continue uploading several videos. So guys, thank you so much. Let's meet in the next video.